Nobody tells you what your salary actually means. They tell you the number. They don't tell you what the number does to your life, what it buys you in terms of how people treat you, what stress feels like at 2 a.m., what you silently give up just to make the math work every month. A salary isn't just money. It's the speed at which your life moves, the options that exist or don't exist, and the version of yourself you get to be on a Tuesday afternoon when something goes wrong and you have to figure out how to fix it. This is what it actually looks like at every level. Level 1. $30,000 a year. You bring home roughly $2,100 a month after taxes, and you already know where every dollar is going before it arrives. Rent takes $1,100. That leaves $1,000 for the rest of your life. Groceries, utilities, phone bill, transportation, and whatever medical emergency decides to show up this month uninvited. You've become an expert at a very specific skill that no university teaches. The mental math of deciding whether you can afford to eat normally this week or whether it's a rice and eggs situation again. You shop at the discount grocery store, and you know exactly which day they mark down the meat. You've memorized which bills hit on which dates, so you can time your spending around them like you're defusing a bomb. Your savings account has $200 in it, and you treat it like a museum exhibit. You can look at it, but you cannot touch it, because the moment you do, something will break and cost exactly $200 to fix. Going out exists in theory. In practice, you nurse one drink for 2 hours and calculate the Uber home against whether you can skip breakfast tomorrow. Your friends suggest restaurants, and you spend 10 minutes studying the menu online before agreeing to go, just to confirm you can afford something that isn't a side salad. You never say you can't afford it. You say you're not that hungry. The worst part isn't being broke. The worst part is the mental load. Every single financial decision, no matter how small, requires a full internal audit. A $12 copay at the doctor, a friend's birthday dinner, a parking ticket that hits like a personal attack. Nothing is casual. Everything is a negotiation between what you need and what the account can actually absorb. Level 2. $50,000 a year. You take home around $3,300 a month, and for the first time in your adult life, the rent doesn't eat everything. There's leftover. Not a lot, but enough that you stop doing the panicked arithmetic every time you open your banking app. You upgrade from rice and eggs to actual meal planning. You buy the name brand pasta without a second thought and feel briefly like a functioning member of society. You have a car now. It's a 2016 something with 90,000 miles on it and a check engine light you've decided to emotionally ignore. The monthly payment is $280 and insurance is $140. And between those two things and gas, the car costs you more than you expected a car to cost when you were romanticizing the idea of having one. But it's yours, and it gets you to work, and sometimes that has to be enough. You've started a savings account that you actually contribute to. $50 a month, sometimes $100 when nothing goes wrong. It feels responsible until you do the math on what it would actually take to buy a house, survive a job loss, or retire at a normal age. And then you close the calculator app and go watch something on Netflix because some realizations are better postponed. The anxiety hasn't gone away. It's just changed shape. You're no longer scared you can't cover rent. Now you're scared that one bad month, one car repair, one medical bill, one surprise expense erases 3 months of careful saving in a single afternoon. You're stable in the way that a chair with 3 legs is stable. It works perfectly fine until it doesn't. Level 3. $75,000 a year. You take home around $4,800 a month and something shifts. The financial terror that used to live in your chest quietly packs its bags and downgrades to a low-level hum in the background. You can eat at a restaurant without studying the menu for escape routes. You can book a flight without immediately opening a spreadsheet. You can say yes to things. Not all things, but enough things that life starts to feel less like a series of calculated sacrifices. You move into a better apartment. It has in-unit laundry, which sounds trivial until you've spent 3 years hauling a bag of clothes to a communal laundry room at 11 p.m. because that's the only time the machines are free. This is a luxury you will never again take for granted. But here's what nobody warned you about. It's the most comfortable trap on the salary ladder. You make enough that the urgency to change anything disappears. You're not suffering, you're not thriving. You're existing at a level of financial adequacy that is just comfortable enough to stop you from doing anything about it. The ambition that used to run on panic has no fuel now. You've confused the absence of financial pain with the presence of financial progress. You have a 401k, You contribute enough to get the employer match, which your coworker explained to you once as free money, and you've never thought about it more deeply than that. You have one credit card that you mostly pay off. You take one decent vacation a year, the kind where you stay in a normal hotel and do normal tourist things, and come back rested but not transformed. Life is fine. Fine is its own kind of dangerous. Level 4. $100,000 a year. You've crossed the number, the one that felt mythological when you were making $40,000 and living on determination and discount groceries. 6 figures. You take home around $6,200 a month, and the first time you see it in your account, you feel like you finally made it. That feeling lasts approximately one pay cycle. Because $100,000 in your bank account feels completely different from $100,000 on a piece of paper. Taxes took more than you expected. The apartment you moved into because you could finally afford something nice costs $2,200 a month. The car you upgraded into because you deserved it runs you $450. You started eating better and going to the gym and having a life, which turns out to cost money. By the end of the month, you've saved maybe $800, and you're sitting in a nicer apartment wondering why 6 figures feels exactly like 4 figures did, just with better furniture. What you actually bought at $100,000 is not wealth. What you bought is the ability to have a problem and solve it without it destroying you. Your car breaks down and you fix it. A medical bill arrives and you handle it. A friend needs help and you can actually say yes. These are not small things. The version of you making $30,000 would not recognize how different this feels. But it is not the finish line you were promised. It is just a more expensive starting point. Level 5. $150,000 a year. Something genuinely changes here. You take home roughly $8,500 a month, and for the first time, you have real choices. Not just the choice between bad options and less bad options. Actual choices with actual consequences you can absorb either way. You can max out your 401k and still live your life. You can build an emergency fund that isn't a joke. You can look at a $600 flight and book it without a 3-day deliberation period. The lifestyle upgrades happen fast and they happen quietly. You don't notice yourself getting used to things. Better restaurants become normal. Business class on a 4-hour flight becomes reasonable. The gym you go to now has towels. These aren't extravagances to you anymore. They're just your life, which means if they disappeared, you would feel their absence in a way the $30,000 version of you would find embarrassing. People at work start treating you differently, not dramatically, but noticeably. Your opinion carries weight in rooms where it didn't before. You're invited into conversations earlier. You start to understand that salary isn't just compensation for your time. It's also a signal the professional world uses to decide how seriously to take you. Level 6. $250,000 a year. You are now in the top 5% of individual earners. And the interesting thing is, you don't feel like it. You take home around $13,000 a month after taxes, and you should, by any reasonable measure, feel wealthy. You don't quite. Because somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000, your expenses quietly restructured themselves around your income without asking permission. The house costs more. The schools cost more. The social circle you now move in has a spending baseline you match without thinking about it. Lifestyle inflation doesn't announce itself. It just moves in while you're busy working and rearranges all the furniture. You have a financial advisor now. He says words like portfolio rebalancing and tax loss harvesting, and you nod in a way that suggests understanding. You've started thinking about money differently, not as something you spend, but as something you manage. You have investments you don't fully understand, but trust because the alternative is admitting you don't fully understand them. The stress hasn't disappeared. It's been promoted. You're no longer stressed about covering rent. You're stressed about decisions that have real financial consequences. Whether to buy or rent the next property. Whether to negotiate equity instead of salary on the next offer. These are better problems to have, but they are still problems, and they have a way of filling the space the old ones left behind. Level 7. $500,000 a year. You still have a boss. That is the thing nobody prepares you for at this level. You make $500,000 a year, and on Monday morning, you still sit in a meeting where someone else decides what you work on. You take home somewhere around $25,000 a month, and you have genuinely solved most of the financial problems that plagued the earlier versions of your life. The emergency fund is real. The retirement account is serious. The house is paid down. The anxiety that once lived in your chest has been replaced by something quieter and more unsettling. The realization that you have climbed most of the salary ladder that exists for people who work for other people. And the view from up here is someone else's ceiling. The money is no longer the point. You spend it without noticing. A $500 dinner is unremarkable. A business class flight is automatic. Your children go to private school, and you no longer calculate whether you can afford it, which is a sentence that still surprises you when you think about it too hard. You have reached the level where financial security is no longer a goal because it is simply a condition of your existence. What you think about now is different. Whether your work actually matters. Whether the title justifies the hours. Whether the version of yourself that took this path is the version you would have chosen if you had known, at 22, exactly where the path ended. You are compensated exceptionally well to execute someone else's vision. That is the honest description of your professional life at $500,000 a year. And at this level, with this much clarity, that sentence lands differently than it would have at any rung below. The number on your pay stub is not the whole story. It never was. Every level on this ladder comes with a version of the same trade. Something gained, something quietly surrendered, something you only notice was missing when you finally reach the level where you thought you'd have it. The people at the bottom are exhausted by survival. The people at the top are exhausted by a different question entirely. And somewhere in the middle, at a level just comfortable enough to stop the panic, but not quite enough to answer the bigger questions, most people spend most of their lives. The ladder is real. The question worth asking is whether you're climbing towards something or just climbing.